it's Liz Yuille from Old Stables Crafts. Thank you for very much for joining me again today. Sorry, falling over my words. Today I have got this project for you. It is quite different for me. I think it's quite different, full stop. This is actually a card that I've made for my wedding anniversary. My husband and I will have been married for 3 years this week. And I wanted to make a card to celebrate. I had originally thought that 3 years was wood, but actually it's leather. So I have changed the card slightly to take that into account. So the first thing I wanted to show you is, let me see if I can pick this up on the camera. Let's see if I can get the lighting to pick it up a bit better. There's quite a lot of subtle sparkle on the card, even in the embossing, although I don't know that the heat embossing is actually showing, but I think the rest of it may be. So that's kind of where I'm going to start. I'm using the Rooted in Nature bundle, which is huge. It's a double set, and I keep forgetting it's got Christmas trees in it. So if you've got this, don't forget you've got Christmas trees as well, and matching dies. So there's one that cuts out 2 and there's one that cuts out the singleton. So they're really good size for tags. Watch this space. But I'm actually using, let's see, what am I using? I'm using this image and these 3 images. I'm not actually using any of the sentiments, because I'm using the sentiments from one of the stamp sets that I got at Onstage, and I'm using So Happy to Have You in My Life, because I am so happy to have my husband in my life. So let us start. It's a kind of odd selection of bits and pieces that I'm using, but I'm going to start with the vellum piece, or the main vellum piece, and that is using the sentiment stamp, and I'm using just 2 colours of ink for the whole thing, but I'm also using the copper, the bright copper shimmer paint, which you need to just shake up so that it is well mixed. It's got a little ball bearing-y thing in there, and I'm just going to get my dauber and pick up what's in the lid and just pop that on a silicone mat. I may need to come back and top that up in due course, but for the moment that will do nicely. So first thing to do is to ink up our stamp, and you're going to think I'm mad because I'm going to stamp it onto vellum. Just going to close that and get it out of the way for the moment, but not until I have added, without the added fluff, some of the copper paint, and I'm just adding it to the larger font, so the So and Life, and then I am going to stamp that onto my piece of vellum. I don't know why I'm worrying about lining it up, because it doesn't matter. And that's that. Then I'm going to grab my clear embossing powder, because classic ink doesn't dry terribly quickly on vellum. So I'm going to take that property, and clearly I need to top my box of clear embossing powder up. It's one of those things you think lasts forever, and I haven't topped this up for 2.5 years, and I think it's about time I did. I obviously use quite a lot of clear embossing powder. Anywho, that's that. Now you may be wondering why I didn't use my embossing buddy, and that's basically because I forgot. You should use your embossing buddy first. On vellum it's not quite such a problem, and also with clear embossing powder it's not quite such a problem, but it's a good idea to get into the habit of doing it, and I just forgot. There you are. I'm human. Right, so this is going to need to be cleaned quite quickly, and I'm actually going to use Sin of Sins, a wet wipe, and the reason I'm doing that is because of the glimmer paint. It's basically an acrylic paint, so you want to get that off your stamps as quickly as possible, and then my recommendation would be that you use your stamping scrub to get the wet wipe residue off, and that will recondition your stamp as well. But for the moment I will just pop that to one side and heat up my heat embosser, my embossing tool. Where are we going to be when I post this? It's going to be towards the end of the week. It may even be December by the time you see this. But who knows? I know it won't be on my wedding anniversary, because there's a different post for the day of my wedding anniversary, because it will have been the Inspire Create Day. So this may be the day after. Who knows? If it is still November, do remember that if you shop with me in November, you have the possibility of winning a set of the Many Marvellous markers, which is in the annual catalogue. It's my birthday present to people who shop with me in my birthday month, because it's not only my wedding anniversary month, it's also my birthday month. Just one bit there. There we go. So that's that. Now that's going to need to just sort of sit for a while, which is fine, because whilst that is doing its thing, I am going to start stamping some of the other images. Now I'm actually only going to stamp one, because the same principle will be for all of them, and I have done some preparation. So I've got the piece of wood and some crumb cake, and again I'm going to use soft suede. Did I use soft suede or did I use crumb cake? No, I think I used soft suede. So just ink it up. Don't worry about inking it up too much, to be honest, because we're going to take our copper and add that on top as well, and that's going to just help move the ink around. And you don't need to cover all of it, just cover, I mean, you need to cover all of the stamp, but you don't need to put the copper all over the image. And then just huff a bit and stamp it down. Give it a good press. And there we go. And again, I'm just going to grab my wet wipe, because you do not want your shimmer paint to dry on your stamps, because as an acrylic paint, once it's dry, good luck getting it off. And it's, you know, you don't want to waste your stamps. So that obviously needs to dry. I've done exactly the same thing with all of the other images. So I've got the leaves, so both of those leaves, and also the little sprig, which I've done on vellum, and again that's got shimmer paint on as well. And I've done a number of, well, I've done 2 of each of them. So the next thing I'm going to do, I just want that to dry properly. I don't need the copper paint anymore, so we can get rid of that. And again, I'm just going to wipe that. It's easier to get your silicone matte clean than anything else that you're using, but again, worth getting it clean sooner rather than later. Now, I've used one of the layering oval dies to die cut this, but it's slightly too small. The stamp's too small for the oval. So all I've done, let's get rid of those bits, is I have trimmed into the banner just with my snips, and to get the right size, the cutting edge is the inside of the oval. You can just sort of see, hopefully, that it's very close. I didn't want to go the next size up, so all I'm going to do, because it is so close, is just cut in, and I am going to go slightly further in than the die will cut. and I will explain why when we get there. So just a little bit further in than the die will actually cut. And just snip in there and snip round there. And then the reason I have done that is because you need to tuck the banner over the die so that it doesn't get cut. And then just straighten it up how you want it, and you just need a little bit of extra wiggle room. So I'm just going to run that through my big shot, which is off to the side. So, ooh, and I'll move everything in the process. That's a good idea. That's a super idea. Move that up. That's better. Right. Okay. And there we have our die cut banner or stamped piece. So let's get rid of the bits that we don't need. And at this point there is no die to cut this, so all I'm going to do is cut it out. Now how are we doing for time? 11 minutes, okay. So this is a really easy image to cut out. You could use a punch or a circle die, but you would kind of lose the fact that it's not exactly circular. It's a disc of wood rather than a circle. So you do kind of want to keep that rustic look. It's part of its charm. Now I'm thinking, this is what's gone through my brain. I think Rooted in Nature is the male version of Frosted Florals, because it's basically, it's got that same, for me, it's got that same feel to it, in that you can build up these lovely sort of clumps, for want of a better word. Right, so that's that. Now, this background is where I'm going to embrace the leather. And this is here's what I've prepared earlier. This is soft suede that I have just crumpled and crumpled and crumpled and crumpled. Now with this one I did then shred it, and I'm going to show you what I mean. But the first thing I'm going to show you is, by doing this, this is the same size that this started. So let me just line that into the corner. You lose a lot. So I've lost at least 1/4 of an inch on the length and about 1/4 of an inch on the width. So by doing this, you're going to end up with a smaller piece of card than you start with. But that's fine. You just have to cut it larger in the first place. So I've got a piece here that I'm going to show you how I did it. And the first thing you need to do is just be brave. Now, obviously this is a smaller piece because it does take quite a while. And there is a way of speeding it up, and I will show you that. But the first thing to do is to get it really well crumpled. And I mean really well crumpled, so that it's almost, you know, indistinguishable. Now, to speed things up, I've got in one of my old stamping mist bottles, I've got some water, and I'm just going to go off camera and spray some water, and then you can see I've got water on there, and that just helps to break down the fibres, and it means you can get it into a tighter ball. And then you can open it out again, and then you can close it again, and then you can come in with your bone folder and give it some welly. And basically what you're trying to do is to break down the fibres. And the more you work it and the more you crumple it, the more you break down the fibres. And you just keep going and keep going and keep going until you've got the look that you're after. Now that is what that's basically that. What you can then do is, say, just keep going. Now obviously it's a bit easier with a smaller piece because you can get into the edges easier. but just keep going, and then if you want to end up with suede rather than leather, eventually you can get to the point where I need to do a bit more, but you can get to the point where you can get the layers apart. As I say, I need to do a bit more work on it, but then you get this suede, and it even feels like suede. So that's how you do that. But we're not going to spend the time doing that. So I've now got a piece of early espresso, because having established that, you know, you're going to shrink a piece, I've got some early espresso to take up some of the slack, and I'm putting a reasonable amount of the liquid adhesive down. Not too much, but, you know, a reasonable amount, more than I would normally. And then just pop your leather, for want of a better word, on top, and come in from the back and just get that well pressed down so that it's all in place. Right, I'm then going to, you know, scrumple this up a bit, because I want that to have that rustic look as well, and then grab some dimensionals, and I'm coming in from the sides a bit, A, because I want the edges to be up, and B, because I'm going to tuck things underneath. So get rid of those, and I want to make sure that this cut piece is reasonably visible. I'm coming a reasonable way up from the edges. Next thing to do is to adhere this. Well, it don't have to be next. And all I'm going to do is, where it's got life, is add a bit of the multi-purpose liquid adhesive. Not too much, but you're just going to use this word to hide the adhesive, because it's a nice thick script. You can pop your glue behind so that it isn't too obvious. So pop that down, kind of there. Now I can see that there is copper in this embossing. You probably can't, but trust me, it's there, because we added the shimmer paint. And then, where are we on time? Yeah. It's technique as well. So I'm going to scrumple these all up, because I say I want that rusticy sort of look. The only ones I'm not going to scrumple are the vellum, because they won't really like the idea of being scrumpled. Scrumpled, you understand, is a technical word. And then just add some liquid adhesive to the back and just tuck them in. And then one of the, I think this is a sycamore. I used to know my leaves. I'm not brilliant at them now. And again, you put texture in, so you don't want to take it out at this stage. Now I'm actually going to tear that, because I want to split it over two. And just lift that up a bit, and again you can scrumple it as you go. And then another one. That in, and then, oops, we've got our little leftover piece, which can go in there. And then I've got two of these, but I think probably just the one. Pop that in there. I'm actually going to use a glue dot for that, if I can get my glue dots to play. So I'm just going to pop a glue dot just at the bottom there, tuck its bottom in, and then just tuck that in there. just to sort of soften it a little bit. Then I've got a Sahara Sand card base. It's just a standard piece of A4 cut in half, scored down the middle, and add some liquid adhesive onto that and pop it on the front of our card. Now, the dimensions are all going to be down on my blog. It's going to look odd because this piece is going to be the same size as this piece. So, yeah, I will try and describe how I've done it. But one of the reasons that I post videos is because I'm not that good at actually writing instructions, which is sad really, because I do classes and I do write instructions, but I do use quite a lot of photos. Anyway, so this is the one that we've just made. This is the original, where I then discovered that the piece of leather paper was really a bit too small, but basically it's the same card. And I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found it interesting. Quite a bit of technique in there. So yeah, if you did enjoy it, please give it a thumbs up. If you're in the UK and you want any of these products, I would be thrilled if you would shop with me. I am hoping to get the incentive trip this year. It's going to be a real stretch, but you guys can help with that. Every order makes such a difference. So it would be, I would be bowled over if I could go to Maui. So anyway, any questions or queries, please do get in contact. I try to respond really quickly. So if it's a specific question that you've got where you need an early reply, then do send me an email, and my contact details are over on my blog. If you've just got a general comment, just either leave it on my blog post or leave it in the comments below and I will get back to you. I normally get back in about a week to general comments. Emails I respond to during the working week, Monday to Friday, during working hours. At the weekends sometimes I will reply, but generally I try to work a working week. Thank you very much indeed. Sorry about the waffle at the end, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye!